Welcome to the center of political life. You are now in Ottawa, the national capital of Canada. Take a good look around. Some buildings are simply bricks and mortar. These buildings represent the base of our democracy. They symbolize a gathering place of our thoughts, our plans, and our needs. Here is the starting point, a birthplace on a timeline of the life of our nation. People from all over Canada come here to talk, meet, share ideas, and provide direction for all Canadians from coast to coast to coast. You're about to see from a tourist perspective what lays behind these walls and doors of what is commonly referred to as the centre block. This is the main building and the centre of attention on Parliament Hill. There are 5 main areas where we will visit. They are the House of Commons, the Senate, the Library of Parliament, the Memorial Chamber, and the most outstanding feature of the building, the Peace Tower.
The Library of Parliament is a national architectural treasure. In 1873, an English-built metal skeleton was lowered onto the stone walls, a frame that remains in place to this day. Inside, the library is finished in rich wood and high Victorian design, and is nothing short of spectacular with its original reading room. This building narrowly escaped disaster and destruction on several occasions, including the night of February 3rd, 1916. A quick-thinking library employee that night slammed shut the door, and thus the octagonal sandstone structure was saved, while the rest of the Parliament building was reduced to rubble. In the middle of the room stands a stunning marble statue of a young Queen Victoria. Rising 14 stories above is the dome ceiling, which once again was almost succumbed by fire in August of 1952. The 1950s fire underscored the need to renovate the library or replace it. Parliament opted wisely for renovation, and that took almost 4 years before the place opened again in 1956. By 2001, it was again apparent the building needed major work to bring it into the internet age. This time the library was stripped to its core, rewired, replumbed, restored. It was also expanded dramatically with the addition of 3 complete floors underground. Costing more than $136 million, this project was completed in June of 2006 and has resulted in a very modern building. This is also, at the same time, a living museum.
So here, as you may have guessed by all of the books, is the Library of Parliament. It's used by parliamentarians, by Senate side, House of Commons side, anyone who works for the members of Parliament. So this library is closed to the public and has been since the 1960s. But the whole idea here is to just offer all of the resources that are necessary for members of Parliament, senators, etc., to be able to do their jobs. If you took all of the information or all the resources in the library and put it end to end to end to end, like on a bookshelf, you would find it covers about 17.6 kilometers worth of information. So a lot of info. Now, the library itself, in terms of the room, you can see that obviously it's very different from the rest of Parliament. It feels like it was built at a different time period, and that's because essentially it was. This library was finished in 1876. As I mentioned in the House of Commons foyer briefly, the other building was finished in 1922. And that's because our original Parliament building was destroyed in a fire in 1916. And it completely destroyed the centre block with the exception of the library. Now the story actually starts where we had just been walking in the Hall of Honor. There used to be a reading room there, and they know that the fire started there. They aren't sure how it started. It may have been a cigarette in a waste paper basket, it may have been an electrical malfunction, but the room was panelled in wood, and the wood had been varnished several times over, so you can imagine when the fire started, it continued quite quickly. The Library of Parliament in its entirety, or I think it's maybe just this branch, answers about 350 requests a day for information. So while these books might not be, they might not be borrowing them regularly, if anything, members of Parliament can come and say, I need you to be able to create me a reference list of a lot of books that are relating to this topic that I'm trying to develop a bill for. And then the library would actually do the research for them and make use of the information.
So the librarians are very busy.
The librarians are very busy. They're not all based out of Centre Block anymore. There's some other branches of the Library of Parliament around the city. I'd say about like 4 or 5 altogether.
Is
so
this,
yeah.
Is this everything?
This isn't
This
everything.
is all the books?
No, there's 3 sub-basements where there are some books, and there's also the other branches. There's also a bookbinding facility in Gatineau, so there's places all over the city.
This has just gone through a major restoration
Yeah.
project. hasn't it?
Yeah, it was just opened this past spring, or reopened this past spring. It was what they call a 4-year rehabilitation, conservation, and upgrading project. Where basically, the gist of the project was to take the library, bring it back to the way it looked in 1876. There had been some changes since. But at the same time, to integrate all of the technology that's necessary for a fully functioning and modern library. Part of the reason that it was such a long job, that and the fact that if you look at the detail around, most of this work was what they call rehabilitated. They didn't replace any of the wood panels if they didn't have to. So it was really working at trying to keep the old, but keep it in as good shape as possible.
So come and visit the Library of Parliament. It's open to tourists, as is the entire centre block itself.